and a freelance reporter here at William Patterson University. So, James, we're talking about the movement, and you want to talk about the anarchist area in the movement.
Yeah.
Is there a dilemma right now with the progressives in the movement, the liberals and anarchists? Is there a division?
I mean, since the 19th century, there's been a split between anarchists, socialists, and communists.
Exactly.
But it is true that at the center of the movement, there are anarchists. Because when you think about it, sleeping on the cold pavement of a lower Manhattan Park, that's an extreme thing to do. And that attracts an extreme kind of person, an extremist. And a lot of them consider themselves anarchists. But I think now with the eviction of Zuccotti Park, now that they're out of Zuccotti Park, that's almost a good thing because it kind of purges the movement of its extreme elements. Because when I've been on the marches, you know, I'm marching next to grandma, grandpa, World War II veterans, teachers, firefighters, off-duty policemen. That's the real 99%. It's important to know that this isn't the subculture of the 60s. This is the culture. This is the 99%. It's an eclectic group of people. It's all walks of life. It's not just this central anarchist element that does take over a majority of the park, but isn't truly representative of the movement in its entirety.
Now, history has yet recorded that at moments, anarchist movements can be a cause of a formula of chaos. Do you feel as if in this kind of genre, is the Occupy movement as kind of like a formula of chaos in the perspective of someone that is not even interested in your message?
I think that, I mean, even though there are anarchists there, I think they're completely committed to the nonviolent aspect of it. The only streaks of violence that we've seen is really encouraged by the police. I've seen.
How do you feel about that?
Well, the police brutality is a problem. It reminds us how fragile our democracy is.
Wow.
It's a definite problem, and I think that's what drew the media attention. There was that original blackout, and I think the violence, it actually, I think, helps the cause. I think it helps the movement. It gives it attention and makes the average American sympathetic to the plight of these people.
And there's a growing anger, James, with the economic inequality. Let's touch about that. I have a graph recorded from the Bush administration with the policies that have yet caused this shift economically, supporting the top 1% and not concerned about the 99%. It shows specifically that the top 1% has earned 275 percentage-wise since 1979. Now we're dealing with previous administrations, Republican and Democrat. So both sides of the measure, they have not dealt with economic inequality as the way Americans thought they should have with the elected.
And you're right, it's both sides. I mean, there's 5 financial lobbyists for every member of Congress.
My goodness.
The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are both corporate parties. That's why I think it's important to have the populist movement like this, which creates an independent element to our politics. But income inequality has been a long-term trend, and it's really characterized by deregulation and tax cuts for the rich. Regulation and a fair tax code is what characterized the middle class. It's what created the middle class.
Let's look back at 2008. It was the reports, of course, the economic collapse from 2007, housing market, the banks, we bailed them out. They took $283 billion of tax, basically of taxpayers' money, and they got a blank check to run wild with it. The bankers, they themselves took home, the CEOs, they took home around $13.5 million, while an average income worker in America got around $32,000 annually in the year. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it was actually a higher number, $700 billion. I mean, they've paid a lot of the money back, but that doesn't matter because the collateral damage done by the original market failure, we're still feeling the effects of that. And something that Americans might not know about that's recently come out is that the Federal Reserve gave out $7 trillion in low-interest loans to these banks secretly, which shows you just how much of an influence Wall Street has on Washington. It's frightening.
It's amazing. With these 90 seconds that we have, let's talk about the projections of 2012. President Obama will be, as the incumbent, will be running against somebody in the Republican Party. It looks like right now it's a two-man race in the Republican primary with Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich. How do you feel regarding to President Obama's claim? And he has not embraced Occupy Wall Street. Let's get back to the reason why we're talking about Occupy Wall Street. He has not yet embraced this movement. He has not gone out and been to Zuccotti Park or major cities across America that are dealing with this Occupy movement. How do you feel about President Obama's performance? Are you disappointed? Are they disappointed?
I think his policies aren't consistent with the Occupy Wall Street movement, because if you think about it, He had a stimulus bill that was mostly tax cuts, a health care plan that was a Republican idea. Speaking of Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney, they two guys that championed that, the extension of our wars, the extension of the Bush tax cuts. So we'll see. I think that he's going to adjust his position because he wants to get reelected.
And his hand in Wall Street.
Yeah.
He was yet funded campaign contributions in 2008 by top bankers and by top banks across the country. I mean, this is kind of a measure of a hypocrisy with him. He was campaigning for change, and yet he's going and he's recanting his position. He's getting hands from Wall Street, the enemies of Occupy Wall Street.
I remember when the president was elected, the feeling of solidarity we had. I really thought that this country was going to change, but then what we got was business as usual. Larry Summers, Jacob Lew, Timothy Geithner. These are the architects of the financial crisis, and they were appointed to the Obama administration. So he has a lot of ground to make up if he wants to get reelected.
James, I want to thank you.
Thank you so much,
for
Brad.
coming onto the show. Coming up next on American Controversial, U.S. foreign policy and our involvement with Iran. Also, don't forget to check us out on Twitter at ACWTV6 as Adriana brings you at the latest news from inside the studio. If you want to get involved, come down to Hobart Hall and support Autism Speaks. We'll be right back. Great man. Wonderful, wonderful. It's wonderful talking to you.